Welcome back, all you sports and gambling fans out there. Today we have some NHL betting coverage for you, and joining me here to help me out, Dave Golikoff, our SBR contributor. Now we're covering the Chicago Blackhawks and the Nashville Predators series prizes here. And let's start with the Blackhawks. Now they are favored to win the series at Pinnacle Sports with a minus 137 money line. But they're coming into this series on a 4-game losing streak and have dropped 6 of their last 10 games. Now their last loss came on the road against the Colorado Avalanche 3-2. But at least this game at hand shouldn't be much of a problem for Chicago, considering that they've already played Nashville 4 times this season and won 3 of those 4 games. Do you think that's what we're going to see here, Dave?
I do like Chicago in this spot. I think there's a lot of things to be concerned about with Nashville, specifically how they've played since Pekka Rinne has returned from injury. This is a team that was 29-9-4 before that, and just 18-16-6 after. And I think the concern is that this team is built around Pekka Rinne, and if he's not going to play like a Vezina Trophy type goaltender, then they're definitely going to be vulnerable. Rinne specifically had a .931 save percentage and .96 goals against average before the All-Star break, but since then those numbers have climbed to .248 and a save percentage of .911. So you can see a significant drop off for them. And specifically on a more recent scale, the Preds have been brutal. I mean, they go into the playoffs on a 6-game losing streak. I know you mentioned Chicago comes in on a losing streak of their own, but the Preds is longer. And they've given up an average of 4 goals per game in their last 7, giving up at least 3 goals every single time. I mean, it's a team that is going to be on the short end of the stick in terms of momentum. Momentum in terms of experience, in terms of coaching, and in terms of savvy and being there before. This Preds team that's kind of rebuilt from last year, and under a new coach, new style. They haven't really done this before in the playoffs. So I think it's a big concern for the Predators, how they've been playing. Now they face the Blackhawks, as you mentioned. They've won. Blackhawks have won 3 of the 4 meetings this year, and they won 3. Their 3 wins came when Nashville was good, not when they were bad. So it should be easier for them now. It looks like Chicago is the better play in this spot.
All right, well, as you pointed out, I mean, the Preds finished their regular season a little bit more worse, per se, in this case, against Chicago, dropping those 6 games. But prior to that, they were on a 4-game winning streak. Now, that puts them just 4-6 in their last 10. And unfortunately for them, it seems that the Blackhawks pretty much have their number and will probably dominate this series. And that pretty much explains the plus 122 money line that they have on the series as per Pinnacle Sports. But do you think that the Preds might actually get out of the playoff run in this particular series, Dave?
Well, I think for Nashville to win here, there are some good things that point in their favor. But for them to win, they're going to have to play different than how they ended the season. And we've seen teams do that in the playoffs. It's not out of the realm of impossible. But it's, something's going to have to change for them. I don't know what it is, whether they have to start drinking Red Bulls before game time or what, but something has to change. But you start taking a look at Nashville, the good, the things in their favor, the pros. They're at home. This is a team that had the most home wins in the Western Conference. So that's a good thing. They're going to get the extra home game here. You mentioned Chicago's slump. Well, they've been slumping too. Chicago actually started the year playing really well against teams above 500. Even now, you take a look at their records, and on the season, they're 25-13 against teams above 500. But the problem is they're just 8-9 in their last 17. So you can see that they started the year off really well, playing, those winning teams really strong. More recently, that hasn't been the case. And then lastly, with Chicago, there's no Patrick Kane. And while the perception of this team is that, Chicago, they got all these sexy offensive weapons, they score a bunch of goals, that hasn't been the case this year. This is a team that scored 2.23 goals per game since the All-Star break, which is only better than 4 other teams. And those 4 other teams are New Jersey, Buffalo, Toronto, and Arizona. Those 4 teams are going to be fighting for the first pick in the 2015 NHL entry draft. So Chicago's got some problems. I know they're perceived as the Stanley Cup favorite, but there's some issues here that you have to be aware of when you're betting either Chicago or betting against them here. They've looked like they've had some issues this year. They haven't looked completely crisp, even though with the Stanley Cup future showing that they're supposed to be much stronger than they actually are.
All right, man. Here's where it gets interesting, I guess. I mean, the Blackhawks are minus 137 favorites to win this series, and that's pretty much right around where your price is set for placing bets on money line. Do you think that we should actually take that minus 137 and back the Blackhawks in this case?
Well, I would rather it at minus 120 where I had it last night, but at minus 137, I still think so. I would not bet a lot on this, but I do think Chicago is the better team. I think of the two, they're more able to flip the switch and turn it on. This is a team that's been that is experienced, gone to the Stanley Cup final a couple years ago, how far they go last year, the conference final, and they just have more experience. They play well in this series. They've won 3 or 4. Nashville hasn't been the same team since the Rainey injury, and in general, I do like Chicago here. I just think Nashville's problems will continue into the playoffs, and with a somewhat reasonable price on Chicago, I think they're worth a play, but not a big play. I like this a lot more when it was closer to a pick.
All right, man. Good stuff, Dave. Thank you very much for the insights and the pick here. We'll talk again tomorrow. Everyone else, don't forget to check back with us tomorrow for some more sports coverage and your free picks. Till then, for SBR Picks, this is Dax Floyd.